Start with that earnest money because earnest money for a single family house, most of them I can buy no earnest money. And almost all the 200 flips that we've done probably didn't put any earnest money down. A little different from multifamily. Did you raise that? Did you bring a partner in for that, or did you have the cash on hand? Because 207 units, that's it's a sizable amount.
No, yeah, for sure. So that's another good point that I forgot to mention. Yeah, earnest money is another element of the deal that you need to have organized and taken care of. So us, fortunately, we were able to borrow money from family members with a personal guarantee in order to put the money down on earnest. So essentially, we were out risking money that we didn't have to close a deal that we need to go raise capital for. So really, we put our backs against the wall and took a lot of risk. And looking back on it, you kind of look at it and go, wow, that was a lot of risk that we took. But I think it's really valuable to have those moments in your experience in your career because it really forces you to grow the most and the fastest, right? If you are working out in the gym without a trainer, you're not going to work as hard if you have someone pushing you. And in this case, we had money pushing us, and the risk of losing money and the risk of really tarnishing our reputation before we even got our business off the ground. So really, there was no chance of failure. We could not let ourselves fail. And so putting ourselves in situations like that where failure is not an option, essentially, I think is actually a really great way to get where you want to go faster.
So, all right, so you borrowed the money from family for the EM. And now you're trying to raise. You're getting a loan, looking for a loan guarantor partner. Did you bring on an operating partner as well to solve that problem for the equity investors?
So we, in the end, partnered with a group that signed on the loan to satisfy those requirements, as
Mm-hmm.
well as brought the management company to the table and the operating expertise.
Yeah.
So I think that's a very smart way to go, is obviously bringing partners in to rely on other people's assets, such as their track record or their experience or their infrastructure, their team, for the execution of the business plan. And yeah, so that's what we did, and it was a very rough experience. And the problem with what we did was we scrambled, and we didn't find this partner when we weren't under contract, when we had the luxury of time. Instead, we scrambled and had to find somebody last minute, and that meant that there was a higher chance of us not being with the right partner. And in the end, we were not with the right partner in that case. And so we had to make moves after closing to change partnership and move on. And this experience actually pushed us in the direction of vertically integrating and bringing property management in house on a much quicker timeline than what most firms on that track do. So we actually brought property management in house 2 years ago now, and it's just been a fantastic experience. And we really are grateful for the business that we're building and that we have more control and transparency in our organization.
You almost have to if you're going to be have any reasonable density within a marketplace. It just makes sense. I mean, if you're spread out across multiple markets, maybe not, but that makes sense. Now, that in the beginning, did it come across your mind to, hey, we could bring on a partner, but maybe let's not, and let's do it ourselves. So we'll, protecting your equity, protecting your portion. Was that a debate, and then you figured out later on, hey, we really need to bring someone else on to solve this experience problem? How did that? How did you see that from the very beginning versus what actually happened?
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. We were ambitious and wanted to do as much as we could on our own. But with that being said, I did have this belief in my mind that I held on to as we went through the process, which is it doesn't matter how many pieces of the deal we have to give away. It doesn't matter in the end how much money we make from this deal. The important part is getting the first one done. And keeping that in mind kind of kept us sane as we were bringing on partners and, getting negotiated against ourselves and having to give up more of the pie than we wanted to. But in the end, like I said, we stayed the course because we knew that the bigger picture was what was important.
Yeah. And I think the last part's very true. It's not so much that it doesn't matter, is it does matter. I mean, there's money at stake, but there's other things at stake. And that's what the more important part is that you got to. I went through the same thing. Like when my wife and I bought our first multifamily, it was a small 29 unit. And it was I had done 4 deals in college, fast forward time. Now we're buying houses. So this is together between the two of us. This is our fourth deal. And we both had jobs, baby on the way. And I take this $500,000 hard money loan to buy this dilapidated 29 unit. And it was going to be this monstrous project management that I was going to deal with, along with a full-time job and all this stuff. But I went lone gunman because I could do it. But I think you can relate to this. I didn't know what I didn't know. And long story short, I went to go refi, and all the due diligence I did didn't matter because they were like, "Oh, okay, well, yeah, you don't have experience with multifamily, so love your single family experience, no multifamily experience. Sorry, couldn't refi." And long story short, we sold it, made a good profit, but it was a fraction of what we could have made if we brought on a partner. And being greedy ended up costing me money.